Welcome back to the GGDA November meeting. We're very happy to be here at Mobile Lab. They've done some fascinating work on new technologies to really facilitate mobile game quality assurance testing and dev. So really happy to be out here. Really happy to be with them right now. And we're thankful we've got Mobile Lab's Senior Director of Product Marketing, Steve Orlando, to give us some background on what they do, and especially on the tools that they offer and how they help mobile devs. So, Steve, with no further ado.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So I'll start off. I just want to say I like this to be interactive, make it conversational if we can. So if you have a question, feel free to ask, and I'll try to answer. A little bit about Mobile Labs. We provide a mobile device cloud, both on-premises and a hosted environment. And what that means is we allow you to access real devices for testing and development and to hook into your desktop environments. And I'll show you a little bit more about that. If that doesn't make sense, it'll start to make sense. I wanted to start off talking about the mobile game industry. So first off, who has a mobile game on their phone right now? Raise your hand. Who's got 2? Who's got 3? Who's got more than 10? Who's paid money for a mobile app or mobile game? Both in-app purchases and for the game itself. So if we look, the global gaming market's $115 billion in 2018, and $50 billion of that is in the mobile gaming industry space. 80% of revenue, in-app revenue in iOS and Android is gaming. Gaming is huge in the mobile industry. If we look at it, 51% of that revenue is for mobile games compared to gaming consoles and PC games. So who's played Candy Crush? I'm level 1921, by the way. And I've done it without spending a dime. My goal is to get to the very end. Who's played, well, if we look at here, $819 million Candy Crush Saga only in revenue every year. If we look at that, we're expecting $72 billion by 2020 in gaming. So who plays Fortnite? Well, they released it. Jeff has. They released it for, yeah, so they released it for iOS and Android. And in the first 100 days, or first 90 days, they made $100 million on the mobile side. What is that? Clash Royale, $154 million in the first 90 days in mobile. This mobile thing is big for gaming. So what does that mean for developers and testers? Really, you've got some issues here going on. You've got device management. How do I manage all the devices that I need to make sure that my mobile app works on? Managing the OS versions, being able to control what application version goes on those devices. Device access for dispersed teams. So if I've got a dispersed team, I'm building an app, and I've got a team over in the West Coast, and the East Coast, and in London. How do they all access devices? Do I have to buy each team a device? Mobile DevOps inefficiencies. So really, how do I take really an environment that I don't get like with web and hook that into a way to do DevOps, release, build, process, all those things? How can I utilize my tools that I've done for my normal development initiatives into a mobile game or a mobile app? And then finally, who here picks a brand like a bank or whatever based on their mobile app or something like that? I know I have. Like, I've decided that I would rather do business with this because their mobile app is much better and user friendly than having to do it with someone else where it's not. Brand damage for a poor quality app is huge. People will uninstall the app really fast on the device, which loses revenue and loss of business. So I want to go over 5 things to consider for testing. They are using a real device versus a simulator, choosing manual testing versus automated testing, choose the right devices, setting up testing environments, and how do I deploy my app or game. So for real devices versus simulator, who can tell me the difference between a simulator and an emulator for mobile? Anybody?
We just had that on New Stream Tuesday.
Yep.
Simulators never give you
Exactly. So choosing here, really you have some things. A simulator and emulator are going to give you quick hits, make sure my code paths work properly, my functions work properly. Being able to do unit tests makes it really easy on a simulator. I have access, I don't have to have a physical device. But a real device is important. It's got the proper memory, it's got the proper screen sizes, it's got all the configurations, it's got the proper network, whether cellular or Wi-Fi, that a simulator or emulator just can't replicate enough running on a computer. So we have to think about what is the right tools to use at the right time when I do my testing. In most cases, end-to-end testing is going to be done using a real device. If I need to quickly verify my function, my update works, a simulator is great for that. So we're going to think about those things. Manual versus automated. So for manual testing, really in that you're wanting to find out the user experience. Is this really the experience that I have set out for my users? Is it meeting the business objectives? Am I hunting for the bugs rather than programmatically figuring out the right paths so that I don't find that? So finding out a use that a normal user might go through to find a bug rather than a systematic approach that I'm testing against a requirement. And then also looking at the hard to test areas. Those are our focus on manual testing. For automated testing, again, it's end to end. I want to make sure that my main user flows through my app or my game that are repeatable are tested that way. I get a lot more function and benefit out of doing that in an automated fashion than I do it manually. Save a lot of money and a lot of time doing it. Testing through the major user flows, and then I can also run as part of the build cycle, so I can have immediate notification whether or not I have quality with my app is ready to ship. When I talk about some automation tools, though, we can talk about some of the things that make sense for automation testing. For gaming, it's very visual. There are tools out there that test based in a visual manner. Find this object based on the image on the screen and interact with it in a certain way. We've got a customer that has built automation into their framework for their game, and they're allowed, and they have an automation framework that runs against that as well. And then there's open source tools, one particular called AirTest that has a visual approach, but it works really nicely with interactions pretty quick, finding those objects. The third thing, choosing the right devices. There's 169 device manufacturers out there that are running iOS or Android. There's 50 Apple device types that are still out there, 3 viable iOS versions, 6 versions of Android. The combination out there is huge. 24,000 Android devices, different types out there. Choosing the right device for your testing is important. I pulled this one. Here's the top 10 devices for mobile game performers. So if you really want to get mobile game performance, this is a list that TechRadar said that you should probably have. So when we come through that, we want to make sure what's our strategy for choosing the right devices. And there's a few things that you can do. I want to pick the appropriate devices that I need. What's the most popular? So lately it's the iPhone 8, X, the new devices that they have. You're going to pick the Samsung S7 or S10, the Notes. You're going to pick the top one most popular from every manufacturer. But the other things you can do is measure your audience, right? You can monitor what applications or what devices your end users are using, take the most popular of that and incorporate that into your testing and make sure that they work on that. And then finally, don't waste time on the extreme edge cases. If you got someone with an obscure device and you find out that it's not working on that, don't waste your time making sure that everything works only for that device. The popular ones and what is popular within your user base is what's best. Second, testing environments. So what's involved? Here again, device and application management is important. So when I have a test environment, I need to have devices. I need to be able to find them. I need to be able to have access to them. Same with applications. Do I have the right builds? Do I have the current builds plus old builds to compare against? And I need access to the DevOps systems so that I can get them built as part of the dev process and run my tests against them. So some things to consider for a testing environment. Are you doing manual versus automated? Again, using manual testing, you want to make sure that you have a rich environment for testing, whether it's in hand or using the cloud that's top performing. The second one is, where are my testers and developers located? If all my testers and developers are located and we're all doing manual testing in the same room, a device cloud might not make sense. I can pass around the device. But if I got multiple locations, it becomes a challenge. I don't want to buy every team a device. That gets expensive. If I take the top 10 devices for games that I just listed, that's $8,000 per user or per team, based on where they are. The type of game you're developing determines the environment you want to use, and does the cloud make sense? So with the cloud, there's good work and bad work. How does that go with that? So if I look here based on market distribution, this is just some information about how games are across with users. The things in red here are applicable to a device cloud because I don't have to require two-finger inputs, really, or multiple finger inputs. It's best suited. So we got puzzle, arcade, action, card, board, strategy, word games, gambling, those types of things make it really easy to put into a cloud environment. So with a cloud environment, if I'm building out my own test environment, I've got to worry about all of this stuff as well, managing hardware. Not only do I have a device, but I've got to build it so that it hooks up into environments. I've got servers that they got to be plugged into. I've got to order switches and soundboards and USB hubs. All that stuff adds up, and managing that becomes difficult. Don't waste your time on bad work. Focus your time on the good work. And again, who's seen a device lab that's much like this or in drawers, right? It's on a table, right? Where's the OS? Is the device charged properly? Who has it? Has it gone missing? What version is it? I'll give you an example from when we were installing into one of our customers for a proof of concept that proved the point really simple right away. We showed up, we got our device cloud set up for them, and we said, okay, where are the devices? And the guy's like, I don't know. Let me find out from this person. Well, that person was stuck in traffic because she had to drop her kids off at school and there was traffic, and she was 45 minutes late. She had access to all the devices. So 45 minutes later, she comes in, we get the devices, and I say, okay, where are the charging cables? I need to plug these into the USB. Well, she went around to all the users in the office and picked up charging cables. The devices were not charged. They were completely power dead. So we waited another 30 minutes for them to charge up. So we wasted a bunch of time having access to a device. So you can eliminate that with a device cloud, right? A device cloud, the devices are always online, instantly available. They hook into your DevOps processes. It can be behind our firewall, it can be behind on-premise in your own office. You don't have to worry about hardware. All that stuff, you take out that bad work so you can focus on what you do best, and that's build and develop tests. So you've turned in real devices into integrated test environments because they're available online, access to your tools within use. within a user environment. And then, not to mention, I talk a lot about testing. It's our background mostly, but there's support for application developers. So with a device, you usually have to tether it into your laptop. We've got client software that alleviates that tethered problem. So a device that's remote can actually come up and appear as if it's in Xcode, Android Studio, whatever tools you're using. You don't have to worry about having the device. It's available to you with software. And finally, the fifth thing, before we go into a demo about how a cloud works, is deployment options. So my app is test. Now what? Well, you might want to consider a beta program for your game. And how can you do that? Well, Apple provides that with Test Flight. You can sign up users and they can test your apps. You can do that with Google Play. Okay, now I've released my game. It's deployed. How do I monitor? You need to monitor what's happening. Is it all my services on the back end? Is the game performing properly with my users? And finally, look at reviews. Reviews are important. They help drive what comes next, but that's also a good sign to find bugs because you want to go back and fix those things. App quality and game quality is important. If you don't, people will uninstall and not come back. So we'll go into a demo of how the cloud works. Okay, 1 second. So this is our device cloud. It's called GigaFox. And this, I know it's a little bit hard to see on that screen. But you have access to devices. In here, I have a list of all the devices available. I have access to applications. I can upload my builds. They can be done through automatic process when they're built. Or I can drag and drop them up here. I can manage multiple builds, install them on the fly, install them right away. I can push them out so that when my testers come in, it's ready and available. I've got my users in my system, and I can schedule device reservations. If I know I need a device at a specific time, like I have a presentation tonight, I've made a reservation so no one uses my device. Looking in here, you can have iOS and Android devices in here. I've chosen this one. I can see a lot of different things about the device. 1 second. While I hook up to the VPN. I can see information about when it was reserved, what's the serial number, a lot of that information, it's defined for you. You don't have to worry about setting this information. I can create reservations. I can see what application is. I can see the usage, and I can see the history for my devices. So I can also see applications, uninstall, clean them up, do whatever I need to do. I also have the ability to see the console logs within the system as well. So if there's a bug, I have logs. I send it to someone, send them a link to the logs, and they can access them. If you've got a bug, this is very helpful. So connecting is simple as hitting the connect button, and you have access to the cloud, a real device, mouse and keyboard controls. You can go anywhere within the application. You can change Wi-Fi settings, notification settings, all that's available to you. And unlike any other device cloud, ours is responsive. You get 30 frames per second, no lag. You actually see what is on the screen in real time. This is a real device. This is not a simulator or emulator. This device is in Norcross, in our Norcross office. So if you wanted to play Mario Run, you can certainly launch it, play, do whatnot. The nice thing that you have is the ability to actually see different things. As I play my game, I want to see what my CPU load is. So tap to begin. What's happening with my CPU? I can monitor as this. We log all this information. You can retrieve it back with your test. You can set markers. So what happens if I play the first level or I do a transaction? Does my CPU spike? Does my memory process, if I looked at the memory up here, does memory go up but never comes back down? Do I have memory leaks? All that stuff is available to you for testing. And like I said, it's as simple as starting and interacting with your mouse and keyboard. The other thing that you can do with this is if I wanted to make sure what it's like on a different phone, is I can actually launch multiple phones on my desktop at the same time. I have access to it. When the device is in use by me, it's retained. No one else can use my device. You look here, over here with the red dots, that's retained. I close the viewer. Now someone else can use that for testing. It makes it real simple to access those things. And finally, if I have my client software device bridge, if I wanted to, I can have this device show up on my computer simply by adding it through software configuration here. And so if I open up Xcode here, and I've got my game, I may need to close this 1 second. There it goes. So iTunes popped up because my device or my computer thinks I just plugged in a device. There we go. So if I go to device and simulators, here's my device. Xcode thinks it's connected. I can see all the apps, get additional logs, open consoles, different things like that. If I wanted to, I can come here, set breakpoints, my application, choose my device, and deploy. So it's going to install and launch on the device. So if you got, the nice thing with this is if you're a tester, you can share this back with the developer. They can test and debug on the device itself where you found it. I hear so many times, it doesn't happen on my device, right? Well, you can share that device with the end user, right? Set your breakpoints, continue running, see your console, watch your CPU, watch your memory. All that stuff's available to you when you develop. You're going to build it against a simulator, test it against a simulator, but your end-to-end flow should always include a real device.
These, who to subscribe to this service, are these devices that you own, or these devices that you guys own?
So as a service for us, we license to organizations and their private devices to that organization. We provide devices or customers provide their own. Either way, we'll provide the device. So for a team, you know, if they're accessing 8 devices, 10 devices, 48 devices, we've got customers that got hundreds of devices with us, and they're sharing across different teams across the continents, accessing these in that way. So you can see it installs, you can play your game and test.
Is there any integration, any special integration you have to do for different development environments, like community or something?
We haven't done that quite yet. I know air test.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question.
Oh, sorry, yeah. The question was, do we work with any like Unity or any of those types of games? And we don't, not yet. I know the one thing that I was looking at was AirTest that runs with a tool called Paco, I think, that works with Unity. So there's some other types of tools. The nice thing about the way we're set up, this device bridge, if it works with anything with mobile, we haven't found a platform we don't work with. At least a tool that we haven't been able to integrate. This is the device bridge thing makes it feel, it's using the same protocol as the device does on USB cable. So if it works with it tethered, it'll work with our tool. So we don't build anything specifically for that, but we should work with any tool that works with mobile.
The devices are factory default.
There's no jailbreak. Yeah, the question is, are the devices factory default? And yeah, there's no rooting or jailbreaking required. You simply trust the computer or enable development settings on Android devices. And they're plugged in and ready to go. You run ADB commands all you want on your computer. Any other?
Write something and you just put a shim in your software.
No, the question is, do you have to put a shim in the software? And the answer is no. There's nothing special that you have to do on your end for your applications and your testing and your games. You simply just access it differently with the mouse and keyboard and a web view rather than having to hold it in your hand.
There's no access for multi-touch.
We do actually, the question is there access for multi-touch? You can simulate, so we can do pinch, zoom, rotation, 2-finger swipe, but we have an API here that I can actually send up to 10 fingers input. So if you wanted to do some weird drawing thing with 10 fingers, you certainly could write the API to send that and say that, yeah. Yeah, and we provide samples for those types of things, so. What other things would you like to see, or can I show you, or that you're interested in about, or anything with mobile games or apps?
If you wanted to stress test like concurrency, sort of set up a script with multiple devices concurrently,
So the question is, can you do, or if you wanted to test concurrency, can you script up multiple devices to do it at the same time? The answer is yes. And the way that you want to do this is more so you want to hit your services real hard. So I'm going to test my APIs. I'm going to hammer those with tools. I'm going to hammer my backend interfaces real hard. I'm going to measure and monitor those, but I'm going to use just a few devices because I can't generate enough load with 100 devices. Whereas I can simulate 1,000 people and tens of thousands of people hitting my APIs, but I want to know the end user experience, right? So I still need to know whether or not the game is usable while my server is under load. So yes, you would do something.
What about other sensors like gyroscopes, accelerometers, cameras?
Yeah, so the question is, what about all the other sensors, gyroscopes, accelerometers, cameras? You can rotate the device here if you want. We have the capability to do that. We have the ability to set a GPS location on the device, so if you have geolocation testing needs, that's certainly possible. We're working on integrating the camera. With that, we do also work with sound. So if you wanted to hear, if you needed to hear and played sounds and music tracks and stuff like that, or you could do that with that.
Can you show the environment? That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got here, I'll just show the UI. I'll close this down. I'll close down Xcode. We'll make it clear with what we're looking at. So we've got Appium. Appium is an integrated testing tool for mobile applications and mobile websites. Not necessarily applicable for gaming. This is based on using native automation controls, something that iOS would set as like a text box or a button or things like that. You can interrogate those and run tests against mobile web and mobile desktop. So we built that in. It's become the most popular test automation for apps out there. If you think banking apps, your telecom apps, my AT&T, those types of things is really what it's geared towards. Appium came from a tool called Selenium. Selenium is a tool out there used to do mobile web testing. So if you wanted to test the browser on Chrome and Safari and Firefox on the desktop, that's what it was built from. Appium came from that. We built it in because it's the most popular tool. We provide tools around that, allowing you to launch an application, interrogate it, write your scripts. Applications here. So I have a list of applications that I can upload and install on the device. Right in here, I can go back previous builds. So if I've got an early version, and the latest one the dev gave me is completely busted, it's got a completely busted path, I can roll back to a previous version of the app, continue my testing. We showed processes here. So you can actually see the list of processes that are running on the device. Right now, I've just got this one. Samples we showed, and accessibility controls. So if I got to do voiceover type testing, and accessibility is important to me, I can actually turn on voiceover, hear what is being spoken over on the device, and then use those controls like go into the next, activate. The way it's done is actually we mimic a Bluetooth keyboard. So you pair the device is paired with our server over Bluetooth, and we make that the device think that our server is a Bluetooth keyboard, and we can send the accessibility commands that way. So let me close that. You can resize, rotate the device. Best way to see that is, if you go into maps, you can rotate. If you wanted to set geolocation, I've got a map here. You can find wherever you want to go. If I want to go to Quebec, simulate location, press that button. Now if I hit the find where exactly I am button and zoom out, let me close that. I'm in Quebec. So you can do a lot of different things. Again, if you wanted to rotate, certainly possible. Put it in portrait. One of the things I like to show here, because you really get the speed of what I'm actually showing, is a stopwatch. Milliseconds is important. If you've got a slow cloud that you're using, you actually can't see the lag of your gaming experience because you're experiencing a lag in screen updates. So we made sure to take out the lag of the screen so you can experience the lag of your game. Did I just lose you? Being able to see the milliseconds is important, especially performance. In any application, if you think, like if I have to swipe up to scroll, and a lot of times you see that the app has to load and it pauses for a second. If I don't have the screen performance in that, I'm not actually going to see that it did that. So I can't actually say, hey, there's a bug. It's slow to load. So having the fastest performing device cloud in the market is important for us because our users experience it. And again, you're going to see this from London, from India, from China, from Australia, even if the device is located here in Atlanta. What else can I answer or show?
Maybe especially if it's set up if your game is pulling data from other sources, like doing ads, maybe if you're throwing ads, you're engaged doing that versus how do you be able to test that for data?
So the question is how do I test if my game is pulling data from other sources? It works just like it does on a regular device. We don't use a different way of obtaining information. The device is using Wi-Fi or cellular. So it's going to pull it from your end user system the same way. It doesn't come back to our services. We might have connected to our Wi-Fi or stuff like that. Things that you can do is you can test in additional ways is by, if I just look at the device, I closed it. Let me connect to it again. You can actually on the device set network conditioning links. So if I wanted to test the user experience a bit more on that, I can go to the developer settings, set up the network link conditioner and say, okay, well, what happens if I'm in a 3G network now? So that's available for you. But again, it goes out Wi-Fi or cellular. We don't change that on a device or within your application.
You can set this to simulate like 3G, 5G.
Yeah, 3G, 100% loss. You can actually add your own profiles on the device itself and choose lag, latency, delay, and stuff like that. So if you want to test, make sure that, hey, what happens if I'm in a really bad spot? I still want to have a good experience. You can do that on the device.
You can even do that quick test when something changes, when something changes network.
Yeah. Yeah. So we give you access to the whole device. Again, I'm in settings here. I can double click. I can close applications, right? There's only one app. We have a special application, this device control, that if you close that, you're going to close the session, but you can close every other application in there. You have access to the whole device.
What happens when you close the session?
Oh, so I'll show you. The question is, what happens if I close the device control application? I get, it'll try to reconnect. And what's going to happen is it's just going to launch that application again and then reconnect. Or I click start a new session. So, and then I'm back. I hit the home button. I'm back at it. Again, this is available for iOS and Android. Both systems work just as fast.
Have you had any specific tools for AR games?
That's not one of the things that we've been able. The question is, have we done anything with AR games? And not yet. And that might be a little bit ways off for us specifically. We're working now to integrate the camera, but that might be for check capture type still images. We haven't yet figured out how a video display to that would work. So not yet, but that's something that we'll continue to explore, all the different types of inputs, because it's becoming popular for sure.
So with the games that are starting to implement more mobile to PC functionality, are you able to test between those platforms?
I wouldn't say, so the question is, with games that are going mobile to PC, have we been able to test with that? We haven't. We haven't quite gone there. So we've got two customers that are our first two customers with mobile gaming, and they're starting with their card apps, real popular card apps. And then we'll see how that goes, and we'll try to work with them to expand. But this, to be honest, gaming is new to us. We just delivered GigaFox with this speeds. It's something that before it just wasn't a great experience for our end users. We were able to overcome the challenge of the performance piece, at least the user experience piece of that, and we're trying to expand that into other environments, video, games, and type of that, now that we have a performing environment.
Do you give back user experience data in any way?
The question is, do we give back user experience data? We don't collect it. That's something, you would implement a tool to type. So I think it's like end user monitoring type tools, Crashlytics, those types of things that capture those types of things and report back to a separate system. We're more focused on giving you a test environment or a real device for your development.
Are you set up to test security on these as well? I know we've got folks doing the real money app development on mobile devices now. Exactly how they would use this test the device security.
Yeah, so the question is, can we test the device security with this? In a way you can. like I said, we're not changing the aspect of the device for that. We're giving you access. So the security types of tools are definitely being used for their types of testing. But we don't provide like a penetration into your app or trying to do anything beyond what you can do with a device in hand.
Any questions from the screen? Anything last you want to show us about GigaBox?
I think I covered most everything we got.
Any last questions?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure I understand exactly the scope of your business. Do you perform this testing as a service as well, or just provide this tool?
Yeah. So the question is, what's the scope of Mobile Labs? Do we provide the testing, or do we just provide the tools? And we're a tools vendor. We provide the environments. We work with partners that do testing, GSIs, the big global institutes, the small partners that actually sell testing services and development services. But we provide the access to the real devices, but we don't provide the testing services. Now, if we have a customer who is doing testing and needs support and has a question about how their script works or about how to set something up, we'll definitely jump in and help them in those senses, but we won't do all the testing.
And you have a stable of right now.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
You have a stable of devices.
Yeah, so the question is, do we have a stable devices? We have a hosting center. It's actually was brought up QTS. We're having the meeting, I think, tomorrow. Tomorrow. So we host down there. We've got a bunch of devices available for our customers. Like I said, they're all private, so you're not having to share your devices with another organization. So it would be dedicated to you 100%. And then we can also deliver this in your office as well. So if you want to do it that way. But I think, total devices out and on-site and in hosted is over 2,000.
Okay, perfect tool for your team.
Very much.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.